first game of the Gaudreau Bowl goes to Columbus, and it was a lot more fraught than I thought it was going to be. Let's break down last night's game on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started, and don't forget to check us out on your podcasting app of choice, or YouTube if you are one or the other, or neither. If you were neither, I don't know how you'd be hearing this, but anyway, I lost control of that very, very fast. Let's talk about last night's game, because it was very, very fun, I thought. Way more angry than I thought it would have been. I was not expecting that amount of fisticuffs. Let's say, I think I talked about it on this show, actually, in yesterday's episode, where I was like, it's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be an emotional game for everyone. But I think these two teams are probably have empathy for each other, because they both know what it was like to have Gaudreau, and now they know what it's like to not have Gaudreau, So, unfortunately, they decided to feel their feelings with their fists, mostly. And a bunch of goals from Michigan players, which is always fun considering the big game that's happening this weekend, today, potentially. I don't know how college football works. But I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the young players and how they're developing, because there was a really interesting quote that I think I talked about in yesterday's episode as well, actually, but we'll talk about it again today because it's relevant again, about Kent Johnson. And I also want to talk a little bit about Mathieu Olivier, and he's a UFA at the end of this year. What should that contract look like? Because I think the Blue Jackets want to sign him basically yesterday. So we're going to talk about all of that. But let's start with the game, which, like I said, was a lot of fun in a kind of unexpected way. There was a lot happening. So great to see Adam Fantilli break his scoring drought and then get a second one. Which isn't that just the way that it goes sometimes? Like, that was I think a 14-game goalless streak, and then he gets two. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another one or two on Monday against the Blackhawks. Is it Monday? Might be tomorrow, Sunday, against the Blackhawks. Just because, again, that's how goal streaks work, is that sometimes you go a long, long time without them, and then all of a sudden you get 3 goals in 2 games or 4 goals in 3 games or something stupid like that, But it was really great to see him, especially he wasn't sure he got the first one either. They thought it might have deflected off JVR. I didn't think so, but I had the benefit of getting to see it many times in slow motion afterwards. So for him to get a second one that he could actually celebrate with was really great. Kent Johnson continues to do Kent Johnson things. He's up to 11 points in 8 games. Had his own goal last night. And again, was just everywhere. I really, really like that Sillinger, Fantilli-Johnson line. I think that line is, again, I'm going to say it a lot this episode, a ton of fun. And while I understand why it wasn't tried before now, I would love to see it tried more. Just because, again, a lot of fun. I feel like all 3 players complement each other really well. And it was, like I said, a lot of fun to watch. They've only played about 14 and a half minutes together. But like I said, very, 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 very fun. And it gives the top, if that line can get going as well, it gives the top line, the Monahan and Russians line, a chance to take some of the weight off of them. Because I feel like the Blue Jackets have been okay at depth scoring. this season. Like Kevin LeBanc has kind of quietly been chugging along. Obviously, we all know Olivier is, I think, still second on the team in goal scoring right now, and most players on the team are like chipping in, But if you can take some of the heavy lifting away from the top line, the Monahan, Marchenko, currently Voronkov line, I think it gives the team a lot more flexibility. So the Blue Jackets currently have 11 players that are at double digits in scoring right now. And then two more players, Aston Reese and Danforth, who are at 8 points. So everyone is, like I said, everyone is chipping in. Everyone that's played more than 15 games, almost everyone actually that's played more than 15 games has at least 2 points. The only person who doesn't is Pucher. He has 1 goal in 17. He's not on the team right now. He's down in Cleveland. But if you take away the guys that have only played a handful of games, so Jiricek, Gabranson, Harris, Jack Johnson, everyone else has at least 5 points on the year, which is, again, the depth scoring is doing a lot, but if you can get that second line of Fantilli, Sillinger, Johnson going. So Sillinger has 13 points in 21. Fantilli has 12 points in 12. Kent Johnson has 11 points in 8. And that line's going to run through Johnson. We've been seeing it since he came back from injury. We saw it before he left due to injury. He's really leading the way for this team's offense at the minute in a way that is very, very fun to watch. I also think that if that line is successful, then they can potentially start what's the word I want? Distributing the minutes in a different way. If you okay, so we've seen it with we saw it with Pittsburgh for basically the last 20 years. We see it a lot with Edmonton. We used to see it a lot in Chicago as well, of okay, your top line of which it's Jonathan Taves or Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby or whoever comes off the ice. And you're like, oh, great, we get a break. No, instead you get to deal with Patrick Kane, or you get to deal with Leon Draisaitl, or you get to deal with Evgeny Malkin. And I'm not comparing Monahan and Fantilli to any of these players necessarily, but if you can get Fantilli going, if you can get him, playing the way that we all know that he can play, which I think he got well on his way to that last night, it means that teams are going to have to think about, have a serious think about, okay, well, do we want to match up against Monahan? Do we want to match up against Fantilli? And right now, I think they probably want to match up against Fantilli. But if you can raise Fantilli's game, and I think if you give him the proper line mates, that again we saw it last night, I think we're going to see some good things, and we're going to see some frustrated opposing lineups if they can't decide where they want to put their top line on the ice. That's a good thing, Let's take a quick break, and then I want to talk about actually what I want to talk about is the player of the month in November, because there's some contention. Not really contention. It was mostly unanimous, apart from some fun write-in candidates, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I also want to talk about what else the Blue Jackets did well in this game. So we'll finish off that, and then we'll do player of the month, and we'll do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app is going to give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, college sports, all in one place. You don't have to go to a million different tabs. You don't need 17 ESPN tabs open. I promise. You can do it all on FanDuel. It's perfect. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can live play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, if you win that first $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets that you can spend on whatever you want. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to talk a little bit more about the game, and then I want to talk about player of the month, because basically everything that needed to go right for this team did go right. Like they figured out the goal scoring, they figured out the goaltending. Again, Elvis needed to have a good game last night, and he did. 2 goals on 29 shots, one on the power play, and then the other one, like, frankly, I might put that goal on Provorov, who was standing directly in front of the net and just kind of swiped at the puck as it went by ineffectively. But the key to this was that Elvis needed to be better than Dustin Wolf, who has been very, very good for the Flames. And last night, Elvis was better than Dustin Wolf, who allowed 4 goals on 33 shots. They've given him a power play goal, but I don't know that goal, that Fantilli goal, was technically a power play goal. It's listed as a power play goal on here, but I thought it happened basically as the penalty was expiring. So we'll see there. But point is, Elvis was better than Dustin Wolf, and he needed to be, and he was. And again, we're seeing like some good bounce back from Merzlikins. Like he's got points in, I think, 6 straight games if you include the overtime loss. The Blue Jackets now have points in 5 straight games, and Elvis had a couple of rough showings. So like, again, he wasn't great versus Tampa, but the other goalie was worse, so it's fine. Again, wasn't great versus Carolina. It was fine versus Carolina. I think could have been better, but they got the W, so it's fine. And then was not very good against Montreal, I thought. Should have had at least 3 of those goals that he allowed. And then last night, I thought he bounced back well. Again, at 9:31, got a little bit enthusiastic about some of the scrapping that was happening. I know that Mackenzie Weegar sticked him in a sensitive area, and he did try to murder him for it, which took a penalty. That's fine. It washed out, I think. There was just coincidental minors and then 2 fighting majors, I think, or 2 roughing minors and then 2 other coincidental minors as well. So like, it's fine. It reminded me a little bit of, I think it was last season when he just kind of lost his mind a little bit and went after Tom Wilson, gave the Capitals a 5-minute major, and that was when they scored the game-winning goal, which I believe actually Tom Wilson scored the game-winning goal to add insult to injury. So, like, a little bit like that, but it was fine. The refereeing, I thought, again, was kind of suspicious. I personally would have thrown Olivier out of that game, I think, for the boarding hit. I am shocked that it was called a major and then downgraded to a minor, because I thought that was a major all day long. But again, the officiating, like, it's, if you complain about it when it doesn't affect you, then I feel like you have to acknowledge when it does. Oh, sorry. If you complain about it when it doesn't benefit you, like if you get done by the refs, then you talk about it, But I feel like you have to talk about it when you also get help from the refs. And I think Mathieu Olivier not getting kicked out of that game was bonkers to me, because it looked worse than the Quinn Hughes hit, and Quinn Hughes got kicked out of the game for it. He got 5 in a game, whereas Olivier got 2 minutes for boarding, and then I think 5 for fighting as well. Which, by the way, 2 fighting majors for Olivier in that game is he took a game off. He let Zach Werenski fight, and then he was like, "Oh, actually, no, I miss it. I wanna do the thing." So we'll talk about Olivier in a minute, actually. But like, honestly, for the most part, a lot to like about this game. The penalty kill has to be better. They've allowed a power play goal in 8 straight games now. And admittedly, like, they've won 5 of those 8 games. So like, could it be, this feels really kind of nitpicky, but everything else is kind of clicking. And again, they technically got a power play goal last night, so I'll take that. I think the power play has to be better as well, but they have crawled up to 20th in the league. The penalty kill continues to be bad. They're 24th in the league right now. And for a team that is not getting as many power plays as they are taking penalties, the penalty kill has to be better. The Flames went 1 for 2 last night on the penalty kill, on the power play, excuse me. And so, like I said, it just, I don't know, it needs to be better. And I don't really know what the answer is there, because this is, for better or worse, what the penalty kill is probably going to look like. for the rest of the year. Like, I don't know that getting Jenna back he'll probably take a lot of penalty kill minutes, but I don't know that he will actually help the penalty kill. He probably won't hurt it, but I don't know that like getting Jenna back is going to magically make the penalty kill good, so we'll see where that goes from there. But apart from that, pretty happy with everything that happened. Like, again, they scored a bunch of goals. They didn't allow a bunch of goals. They scored a power play goal. Like, Adam Fantilli got 2 goals. Ken Johnson's point streak stays alive. Werenski continues to be a monster. Like, goal and an assist last night, I think. He's up to 24 points in 22 games so far this season, is 3rd in defensive scoring. The only players ahead of him, Cale Makar, who has 32 points, and Quinn Hughes, the reigning Norris winner, who has 25 points. So, like, he's in pretty good company right now, which actually is a pretty good segue into what I want to talk about now, which is Blue Jackets Player of the Month, or Locked on Blue Jackets Player of the Month, I should say. Now, I don't remember who I gave it to in October, and I really should have looked up that, but I think I gave it to Marchenko because he was leading the team in scoring at the time, and that felt right to me. And it feels, again, a little bit like a cop-out to be like, well, Zach Werenski's leading the team in scoring, so I'll just give it to him. But also, Zach Werenski had 14 points in this month, in a way that is like, he's just everywhere. Like, let me pull up the numbers that I believe were from CPJ Public Relations. Zach Werenski was dominant in this game. Where is it? Here it is. Zach Werenski finished the month of November with 5 goals and 11 assists for 16 points in 13 games, setting Blue Jackets records for most assists and points by a defenseman in a single month. The previous record of points was 14, recorded by Werenski in March 2024 and Seth Jones in March 2018. He posted points in 9 of 13 games, including 4 multi-point outings, and I believe he's also on a nice little point streak of his own. Ken Johnson, obviously, 11 points in 8 games, has not played a game where he hasn't recorded a point so far this season, but Zach Werenski, I feel like, is also on a similar point streak. Let me figure it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's on a 7-game point streak right now. After having a tough stretch to start the month. He had an assist on November 1st versus Winnipeg, nothing for 3 games, an assist November 10th versus Anaheim, nothing in Seattle, and then 2 points in Pittsburgh, point in Montreal, point in Boston, 5 versus Tampa, point versus Carolina, 2 points versus Montreal, and another 2 points last night versus Calgary. So, like, you could say that, Mathieu Olivier got some votes as well when I asked about this on Twitter, and I get it. Second on the team in scoring, is fighting anything that stands still long enough, is really kind of, the team loves him. He seems like he's a real, and I have spoken out about this in the past because I don't know that fighting actually helps you win the game. Because there's a lot of talk about like, well, the fight really hyped us up, but like the other guy was in a fight as well. And so, I feel like if you win the game, then you always talk about how the fight, hyped you up. And if you lose the game, you don't say that the fight like hyped you up, But Olivier is defending his teammates. He's contributing with the scoring, which I think is going a long way towards me being less critical of him. Because last year, I feel like I was very critical of Olivier's play, and that was mostly because he was just kind of fighting and not doing a lot. This year, he's kind of unlocked that offensive side of his game. He's on pace for like a 20-goal season still, or I don't think he's still on pace for a 30-goal season. His goal scorer has slowed down a little bit in the last little while here, but he's still contributing offensively. He was a lot of fun last night. Again, hyping the crowd up. You love to see it. But I think for me, it's got to be Werenski for Player of the Month. Like, it's such a no-brainer. 16 points in 13 games. 3rd in the league in scoring by defensemen. Like, he's leading the Blue Jackets in scoring right now. Like, it's got to be Werenski Like, I'm prepared. I came into this thinking about, like, do I want to debate the, like, should Ken Johnson get honors? Should Sean Monahan get honors? Should Kromachenko get honors again? And I'm like, no, it's Werenski. Obviously, it's Werenski. So we're going to give it to Werenski this month. And I should write that down so I remember for next month, so I don't have to go back and try to reverse engineer who I gave Player of the Month to. But let's take another quick break. And then I actually want to finish off by talking a little bit more about Mathieu Olivier because he needs a new contract. So what does that contract look like? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? Well, it's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less than at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. They've invented the flex play, which means that you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And they put their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. I don't need to sit around waiting for that money to hit. I can get it, and then I can put it straight back in to try and win a little bit more. So sign up today with $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, that is code LOCKEDONNHL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about Mathieu Olivier because he needs a new contract. And I think the Blue Jackets are going to be the one to give it to him. I think, honestly, if it was up to them, they would have signed him like 2 weeks ago. And it sounds like they're kind of making some moves in that direction. It sounds like Don Waddell and Mathieu Olivier's agent are talking, which is always good to see. I wonder if the Jiricek thing has kind of stalled this out a little bit. I wonder if there's maybe some time being taken to figure that out, and then they'll get back to it. But Mathieu Olivier, I believe, is Puckpedia is down, which is really annoying. But I believe Mathieu Olivier is currently making $1.1 million this year. It's going to be a UFA for the first time in his career. Currently, he's on pace for career highs. He's already hit a career high in goals. He's got 7 goals in 22 games. His previous high was 5 goals in 54 and 5 goals in 66, which he set last year and the year before, respectively. Career high in points is 15. He's already up to 10 in 22. So again, he's on pace for like a 40-ish point season right now. He's playing more time on ice than any other time, than any other season. He's currently averaging just over 13 minutes of ice time. 3 of his goals have been game winners as well, which is fun. He is on pace for approximately 1 billion penalty minutes. He's got 47 penalty minutes right now. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say that most of them are going to be fighting majors. So he had 2 fighting majors last night, 1 against Boston, 1 against Montreal, 1 against LA. And so that takes up, what did I say? Is that 5? So that's 25 of his 47 penalty minutes are fighting majors. So not like penalties that, I was going to say not penalties that hurt the team, but like he's not putting his team on the penalty kill with these penalties. Does he still take more penalties than I would like? A little bit, yeah, but he's doing all of the right things. It sounds like the team loves him. Again, he's contributing a lot to the offense, which is not nothing. Especially, this was going to be a team that had to score by committee this season, and they're doing that. He's got double digits in points already. His career, I don't typically look at plus minus as worth basically anything. But he's on pace to have like his best plus minus of his career by a pretty significant amount. He's currently a -3. His career is -30. So again, we'll see we'll see where it goes from there. But like, I'm pretty happy with what Mathieu Olivier has given to this team so far. He's 27 years old. What does this contract going to look like? Because I think the Blue Jackets are going to extend him. I think it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. The problem here is I see a lot of people saying lock him up long term. He's part of the core. He's integral to this team. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that in theory, I am wary of, for example, and it's different situations. Again, Puckpedia is down, which is really annoying because where am I going to get my cap information now? It's going to be the cap is going up, which helps. Okay, I'm on capwages.com, so let's see if they will tell me what I want. Basically, the contract that I am wary of here is Pierre Engvall, who was signed to a truly stupid contract by Lou Lamoriello, who signed him to a 7-year contract, paying him $3 million a year, and then he immediately, like, this is the second year of his contract right now, I think. I believe he's up with the team right now, but he like went through waivers and got sent down. And so like I am very wary of basically anything longer than about 3 years, I think for Olivier would be a problem. I think he's earned a raise from his current contract. So what did I say? He's earning 1.1 million, I think. Yeah. Which is the most he's earned ever. He was coming off of, he had an entry-level contract worth 2 years for 2019 to 2021, and then he signed an extension for basically the same amount of money, 2021 to 2023, and then they signed him to a 2-year extension with Columbus. So this is his second year of that, his second year with the team, or his second and a half. He got traded halfway through the contract from the Predators here, but basically, he's going to be a UFA. He's earned a little bit of a raise, but here's the thing. The Blue Jackets have basically infinite cap space right now. So, like, yes, they can afford to give him a raise. However, what I'm looking at right now is how much money, for example, Kent Johnson is making this year. He's making $1.8 million this year. Coastal, Igor Chinikov is making 2.1. Like, initially, I was like, yeah, I would give Mathieu Olivier like $2 million for the next 3 years, for example. It feels weird that Mathieu Olivier is going to be making more money than Kent Johnson, though, especially if Kent Johnson keeps up what's going on at the minute. The other thing that you've got to consider is who else do they want to keep? Right now, the Blue Jackets only have 3 defensemen signed through next season. Zach Werenski, obviously. Damon Severson is signed for the next bajillion years, because of course he is. Eric Branson is going to be entering the last year of his 4-year deal. But Ivan Provorov, UFA. Dante Fabro, UFA. Jordan Harris, RFA. Jay Christensen, UFA. Jack Johnson, UFA. Daniil Tarasov is going to need a new contract after this season. Dmitry Voronkov is coming off his entry-level deal. And I wonder if they want to keep at least one of Labanc or Aston Reese. I don't think they'll keep Van Riemsdyk, but I wonder if Labanc or Aston Reese, potentially both of them, will want to stick around. Sean Corrali's money is coming off the books. Justin Danforth's money is coming off the books. Do they want to re-sign those guys? I think Danforth is probably more likely to stick around, but like, there's a lot of there's no like key big contracts that need fixing in the upcoming summer, unless like potentially you want to lock up Dante Fabro long term, which if he continues to play the way that he is, I would be more than okay with. But there's a lot of like little deals that need figuring out this offseason. I do think Olivier is probably not at the top of the list, but if they can get him figured out, and if they can, again, I'm wary of a long-term deal. I don't want like a Pierre Engvall type deal, but if they can give him like 3 years at 2 million, or 3 years at 1.5, 1.75, whatever, that to me feels realistic, and also is a huge pay raise from anything he's ever had, and it gives him stability. You know, like guys like him, typically they will get 1 year contract, 2 year contract, 1 year contract, 2 year contract. Give him 3 years. He's only going to be 30 years old by the time it's done. And frankly, I think that feels like about as good as it's going to get. I love Olivier. I think he's been really great this season. He's not a player that you spend more than $6 million on in total, you know, and that contract is not untradeable if they need to trade him for whatever reason, you know. And again, I don't think the Blue Jackets are going to have a massive issue with the cap for the next little while. You know, in a couple of years, Adam Fantilli is going to need a new contract. The year after that, Sillinger, Chinikov, and Johnson are all up. So, you know, down the road, it might get interesting. But as of right now, like, I don't know. You can afford to be generous with Olivier as long as you're not handing out, you know, 5, 6, 7 year contracts, because that to me would be, that feels like an issue, you know? But I think my final answer for Olivier contract is I do think like somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million for the next 3 years, I think is very, very reasonable and also realistic. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think the David Jiricek thing is probably taking most of Don Waddell's time right now, but I'm sure once that gets resolved, they trade him, they don't trade him, whatever. Olivier's contract, I think, is probably the next thing to happen. So we'll keep an eye on that. Don Waddell, for better or worse, is not a particularly fast mover in terms of contract or trades or anything like that, and which sometimes is to his benefit and sometimes is not. But I would expect that Olivier, like, honestly, before the trade deadline, I would expect Olivier to have a new contract, like potentially before the Four Nations break, which is around about the same time as the trade deadline, I think. But like, honestly, I could see a new contract before the end of the year for Olivier. So we'll see where we go from there. Thank you for listening, for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. And tomorrow, no episode. It's Sunday. Monday, we'll be back. We'll be talking about tomorrow night's game against the Chicago Blackhawks, which feels like a trap game. I'm not going to lie. We'll see. But we'll break down what happens in that game, and we'll go from there. So that's going to be Monday here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Thank you once again for listening. And until then, make sure you stay locked on.